Damn, they're everywhere. We can't get rid of them, like rats running from a sinking ship. They attack en masse. They show up when you least expect them. There's one every few years, each with a new take on this ancient subject. Each builds on tales that went before, yet in some ways it does not always appeal to the contemporary audience that its predecessor may have. What am I talking about? Vampires and vampire movies. I want to talk about Robert Eggers' new film, Nosferatu. I'm getting over the flu, so pardon my voice. The word Nosferatu comes from the old Romanian Nosferatu, meaning the offensive one or the insufferable one. There has been much anticipation of this remake or reimagining of this unauthorized version of Bram Stoker's classic novel, Dracula. Hi, I'm Rob, and welcome to A Constantly Racing Mind. If you're new here, welcome. If you're returning, thanks for coming. We covered the film genres of sci-fi, horror, action-adventure, prop culture, and all things geek. So if you want more videos like this, please subscribe, share, and hit the notification bell to be aware of all my new content. Now, let's start at the beginning. Over 100 years ago, a few German occultists and filmmakers wanted to make a horror movie that expressed the dread of the Weimar Republic and the uncertainty that was coming. Serving the German army during World War I, producer Albin Grau was stationed in the Serbian front and Romania, where he heard folkloric tales of a dead creature that rose from its grave to feast on human blood, a vampire. Coming home to a demoralized Germany and set directly in the German Expressionist period, which presents the world entirely from a subjective perspective, distorting it significantly for emotional effect to evoke moods or ideas. After Dracula's publication in 1897 and after World War I, the Prana Film Company wanted to bring a vampire story to the silent silver screen. Grau and director F.W. Murnau saw many deaths in the Eastern Front during the war. The director of Nosferatu wanted to use Bram Stoker's work as the basis. However, Bram died in 1912, and the Stoker estate opposed the idea of making this film. Now, Prana Films was created by Enrico Deckman and Albin Grau. Both of them were occultists and World War I vets. Now, think Aleister Crowley type of occultists. They wanted to give their vampire some additional occult background, alluding to a deal with the devil. Now, the original story about this vampire was a rewrite of sorts from, the Stoker original. Many of the same principal characters types remain, but with some deviations. Other characters are switched around or morphed into different characters. There are underlying undertones of anti-Semitism in the original that Eggers, for the most part, removed or downplayed in this reimagining or remake. Come on, it's the 21st century after all. Now, you remember Robert Eggers, don't you? The guy that shot that insanely beautiful period film that took place in New England, somewhere between the Puritans' setting in Massachusetts and before the Salem witch trials. Yes, that's the one, The Witch, cold and bleak until the end, when Tomlinson hovers around the warm glow of the bonfire at the end. That Robert Eggers. Or the demented, dark, square, black and white film about the two men in a claustrophobic movie and on an island in the 1800s, where they try to maintain a lighthouse and their sanity. Or more recently, the retelling of Hamlet, based on the older Icelandic sagas that pit men against corruption and power, not to mention his own mother. Now, Robert Eggers follows the plot to a significant degree. However, he makes some crucial changes to the story. Now, first of all, this is not a silent film. That's a big one. Talkies didn't come around until 1927. Grau and the writer tried to change the characters' names so that they could protect from copyright infringement, but that didn't work. They got sued either way and were told to destroy everything, all film copies, and they tried to, but they didn't. Now, the book Dracula and the 1932 film have a plethora of alterations to the story, just like all good stories. Now, in the original, there is no mystical connection between Hutter and the solicitor's wife, Ellen, just like in the original Dracula novel. Now, in the original story, Harker's wife, Mina, has no connection to the evil Count until he finds out how she's been helping to gather clues about the Count's wicked intentions. However, a supernatural bond emerges between the Count and the protagonist's wife in subsequent retellings. We got Bram Stoker's Dracula and the reincarnation thing. Now, the original Nosferatu is similar to Dracula in that his bloodlust is more due to proximity rather than some cosmic reincarnation trope. Think of Coppola's retelling in 1992. Another significant change between Dracula and Nosferatu is the setting. Instead of England, Nosferatu takes place in the fictional town of Weisborg, Germany. Transylvania is still a significant location in Nosferatu, in both different versions. The 1922 original was a product of the German Expressionist era of filmmaking. Now, think Metropolis or Dr. Caligari. Think of those films. Now, go and see Eggers' version of this story. You won't regret it. Now, he wraps this film in dread. Nicholas Hoult is excellent as Thomas Hutter, the naive solicitor who unwittingly makes a deal with the devil. The fear on his face is palpable, portrayed in the film by Hoult as more frenetic than Harker's back in the 1922 original. The castle's atmosphere is tense from the moment he steps into it and long after he leaves. Yarin Blaschke, the director of photography, capitalizes on the deep, dark aesthetic that enhanced the film's gothic horror elements. Adding to the cinematography is Eggers' desire to use as much natural lighting as possible. Eggers uses shadows and lighting in and outside the castle and throughout the whole film to evoke a sense of dread and suspense, reminiscent of the German Expressionist style of the original film. Lily Rose Depp is fantastic as the fragile beauty with latent supernatural spiritual powers that draw the darker forces in this world to her. Now, this is a change from the original. She starts the film in a scene that seems almost like a possession, where as a young teen, amid some pre-Victorian sexual angst, she calls upon the cosmos to show her some affection, some part of her that is missing. She stared into the darkness, and Count Orlok stared back. Years later, she marries Thomas Hutter, a real estate agent, and displays a codependent need to be with her husband almost constantly. When I hear Ralph Innes's voice, the film that comes to mind is The Father from the Witch, Eggers' first film. Innes plays the part of Dr. Wilhelm Sievers, whose Dracula is counterpart to Dr. Jack Seward, who runs the sanatorium where Renfield is imprisoned. Now, let's talk about Renfield. Never mind that Nicholas Hoult played that part in the comedy venture earlier in the year with Nicolas Cage. Never mind that in some versions, Renfield was sent to Dracula's castle to sell the house in London before Harker was sent. Never mind that Renfield is shown insane from the beginning in most popular retellings of Dracula, which Nosferatu is, to some degree, is. Now, Herr is Renfield. Like the film's producers, Hutter's boss is in league with Orlok. Nock, played by Simon McBurney, is also an occultist and a servant to the Count. Now, you've seen McBurney as a character actor in films such as Robin Hood, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows, Part 1, Tinker Tailor Soldier Spy, The Theory of Everything, Mission Impossible, Rogue Nation, and The Conjuring 2. Now, with the Nock character, Eggers draws from the Renfield character as a devoted worshiper of Orlok, who sends Hutter off to sell the Count a dilapidated old mansion, specifically a falling-apart mansion. Now, Orlok, played by It actor Bill Skarsgård, is seen mainly in shadow for most of the film. He is not a suave East European nobleman. He is evil incarnate. His skin is old, leathery, almost necrotic. His face is long, and so are the fingers and nails. Kind of gross, but mostly in shadow. Professor Alban Eberhard von Franz, a Van Helsing-like character who is into the occult, who is an alchemist, called upon by Ralph Ineson's character as he was his professor in medical school. Now, the medical profession has ostracized Franz because of his radical and occultic alchemist thoughts. Played with passion and gusto by Willem Dafoe, he turns the professor into something more than just a vampire killer. He understands that something is connecting Orlok to Ellen, something deep and dark, and he understands that only Ellen can stop Orlok. Willem Dafoe makes anything he shows up in special and magnifies the film by a factor of 10. My opinion, of course. Initially laughed at by Hutter's friend, shipping heir Friedrich Harding, Franz understands Ellen more than her husband does. Harding and his wife Anna substitute for Holmwood and Lucy Westenra from Dracula and follow similar events to those of Lucy and her fiancé Arthur Holmwood in Dracula. Hutter trusts Ellen into their care while he is in Transylvania working with the Count to sell the real estate to Orlok. Aaron Taylor Johnson and Emma Corrin play the husband and wife. They have 2 young daughters. Ellen, like many teenagers, goes through bouts of depression and loneliness. Some grow out of it and find healthy relationships later in life. But Ellen is different. Her dependencies on her husband for emotional support is replaced when she is psychically connected with Orlok upon Hutter's arrival at the castle. Professor Franz is keenly aware that Ellen is the key to ending the plague in Visborg. Composer Robert Carolyn's score is haunting and meticulously crafted. It utilizes a 60-piece string orchestra, harp, woodwinds, percussion, ancient horns, pipes, and a choir. Carolyn creates a rich orchestration, contributing to the film's depth and complexity. It's very dark. The scene of a 14, 15-year-old Ellen calling telepathically for someone to love with an ethereal fantasy music box composition sets a contrasting tone for the rest of the film, which turns unnerving for the rest of the whole damn thing. Orlok's voice was registered lowly, creating a particularly horrifying effect. Carolyn draws on a long history of vampires in film, notably Francis Ford Coppola's Bram Stoker's Dracula. Hints of Polish composers Wojciech Kilar's score are hauntingly alluded to. Orlok's ears are long and pointed, but you only see him in his entirety at the end. The film is beautiful. Go see it. Let me know what you think of the Nosferatu. So thank you for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share this video. It really helps the channel. Watch this video right here, over here, for more cosplay and film prop fun. Take care.